Hi, Lisa. Now that you participated in the latest environmental meeting at IMO, can you explain the recent updates in international standards and regulations related to biofouling?
Sure, and thanks so much for having me, Sanem. Well, there are three updates that are worth considering. Remember from our last podcast that the International Maritime Organization had agreed to put in place what's called a legally binding framework. And when that's implemented, it will require ships to manage their biofouling. This demonstrates that the ecological and economic issue of invasive species transported by ships' biofouling is so important that a global agreement is needed to reduce the risk. Of course, it will also have the benefit of reducing greenhouse gases by reducing fuel consumption. But back to the framework. It could be a standalone document dedicated only to invasive species and biofouling, or it could be a section on that topic that's bolted on to an existing convention like MARPOL. In February at IMO, it was agreed that the legally binding framework should be in the form of a standalone instrument. This is a big decision, and it was made really quickly by UN standards. So this is good news that things are rolling along, both from the standpoint of environmental protection and for adding clarity to the maritime industry. Now, this decision will need to be approved by the Marine Environment Protection Committee when it meets in April, but challenges to the decision aren't anticipated. Then the next task will be for a correspondence group to start developing the mandatory instrument. Okay, so let's turn to another global body, the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. The role of ISO, as you know, is to create standards to carry out activities, from manufacturing processes to laboratory practices to sustainability measurements. You name it, ISO has a standard for it. What about biofouling? Well, ISO now has two biofouling standards. Both were developed with the input of experts from the coating industry, the testing industry, and the in-water cleaning industry. Think about robots or divers here. Last year, ISO published the first standard, which provides guidance for approving in-water cleaning equipment. Just last month, ISO published the second standard, which provides guidance for conducting that in-water cleaning. These two standards are important and will be useful because they will help make a level global playing field, and as IMO develops a mandatory instrument on biofouling, they can be referenced or used as text. Lastly, let's talk about one country's efforts on biofouling, the United States. The US is in the process of implementing the Vessel Incidental Discharge Act, VIDA. It covers 28 discharges from ships, including biofouling. Now, it might seem funny that biofouling is considered a discharge, and that's because during in-water cleaning operations, organisms and potentially bits of coating material are liberated from the ship's wetted surfaces. VIDA is scheduled to be implemented in the fall of this year by the US Coast Guard. That said, a number of legal actions have been filed by states and non-governmental organizations, which means that it may take longer for this implementation to proceed. So stay tuned for updates on VIDA and how this regulation might knit together with global efforts.